So here's the thing. I'm a sucker for small form factor phones. They're convenient to carry, easy for one-hand use, and I adore their discrete profile in my pocket. So when Google dropped the Pixel 8 about 4 months ago, I was immediately drawn to its size and some of its software wizardry thanks to AI, of course. You see, I've always been a fan of Google phones. In fact, my foray into Android smartphones was with the Google Play Edition HTC One. Not sure if you guys remember that, but I specifically chose that because it had top-notch hardware back then, and it ran the purest form of Android. I didn't prefer any of those skins running on top of the open source platform. So over time, Google recognized the need to establish its presence and compete with the big players, leading to the inception of the Pixel series. And it's been 8 years since the introduction of the first Pixel. So the question remains, has Google succeeded or fallen short? I'm hoping to address that by closely examining the Pixel 8 under the microscope after the updates. Alright, so I'm going to quickly start by going over some of the minor hardware improvements that the Pixel 8 brings to the table compared to the Pixel 7. A notable change is the smaller 6.2-inch display featuring rounded corners that not only enhance the phone's ergonomics, but it also provides a more comfortable grip without digging into my hand. The overall design maintains the familiar glass sandwich with the staple camera bump at the back, which unfortunately tends to accumulate all sorts of dirt even with a case installed. Build quality is excellent. The buttons feel nice and tactile with no signs of rattling. I've got the Obsidian Black model, but you can spice it up with a few other options like this newly announced Mint Green, Hazel, or Rose. I really wish that Google maintained consistency in their design aesthetics throughout the Pixel 8 lineup because the frosted texture on the back of the Pixel 8 Pro feels much more premium compared to the glossy finish on the back, which is naturally going to be a huge fingerprint magnet. But then again, it's nothing that a case can solve. The aging optical fingerprint sensor is still in use for logging in, but it tends to only work about 90% of the time. One notable downside is how it can be blinding at night when trying to log into the phone. Personally, I would have preferred an ultrasonic reader like what's found in the Galaxy S23, S24 series. It's just known for superior accuracy and responsiveness, but you can always set up Face Unlock as a backup. The display has received a spec bump as well from 90Hz AMOLED to 120Hz OLED. Now, this isn't LTPO like the Pixel 8 Pro or Samsung's S24 series, but what you will notice is that it's gotten much brighter this time. We're talking close to 42% improvement, which is pretty wild. So 2000 nits peak versus 1400 nits on the Pixel 7. And this results in exceptional visibility outdoors. Content looks vivid and sharp with those inky blacks that we all love. So visually, this is an awesome display, and you'd also think that the 120Hz refresh rate would add to a smooth navigating experience, right? Well, firstly, when setting up the phone, Google for some reason sets it at 60Hz out of the box, so you'll have to manually go into the settings tab and switch it to 120. But once that's done, it's a pretty smooth experience with Google's native apps, and the OS gestures are somewhat fluid. But sadly, that takes a turn when you venture into third-party apps like Reddit, WhatsApp, Microsoft Teams, even some of my banking apps. Heck, even Google's own YouTube Studio just feels so jittery. And I want to emphasize that part highly, guys, because it's super inconsistent when you're switching between apps. It almost feels like the display reverted itself back to 60Hz despite me forcing it to run at its peak refresh rate through the developer settings. Now, I really wanted to investigate this disparity, and I think I found the problem, or the answer. And no, this hasn't to do with the Tensor G3 chip, although I will get to that in a moment, but rather it's about compatibility. You might be wondering, well, isn't this a Google smartphone running Google's own operating system? Yeah, but you have to realize that Android is an open source platform running on a variety of devices out there. This can range from a $100 smartphone to a $2,000 smartphone. And so at the end of the day, it's about ensuring these popular apps run reliably on these devices worldwide, running different versions of Android. You can't simply optimize an app for one particular Android smartphone. No developer would remotely go that far compared to iOS, for instance, which has a pretty strict framework, which is why apps tend to run a lot smoother on those devices. And I feel like this complexity alone is probably one of the main reasons why you can never expect a consistent experience on the Pixel 8. And trust me, this applies to the Pixel 8 Pro as well. To add to that, I had high expectations for Tensor G3 on the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro. Now, over the course of my testing period, I still feel like the performance lags behind that of even Samsung or even OnePlus devices. For instance, the camera app still remains sluggish in capturing photos. With prolonged processing times for each shot, I felt like I had to constantly work to keep up with the phone's performance rather than enjoying a seamless and intuitive user experience. I like to be creative with my photos in Lightroom, and the Pixel 8 is just not enough to keep up with my workflow efficiently. Google Maps was also super laggy during navigation. It's just disappointing that despite the $700 and $1,000 price tags for the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro, they just aren't equipped with a flagship level processor. I just feel like the price doesn't justify the user experience. Google emphasizes that these devices are optimized for processing Google AI faster and efficiently, but when it comes to intensive tasks like hardcore gaming, they just simply don't match to Qualcomm's or Apple's offerings. While performance might not be a top priority for the average consumer, I actually wonder how that would get affected over a year or two with software updates. I mean, I can't help but think that maybe switching to Qualcomm's SoC, which currently now boasts a built-in NPU for faster LLM processing, could potentially address these issues. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Now, if we set aside performance and focus on power efficiency, you're going to love the Pixel 8, especially compared to the Pixel 7, because they've increased the battery size while maintaining a slimmer and more compact form factor. I was consistently achieving close to 6 hours of screen on time, which is way better than my iPhone 15 Pro. Now, granted, battery usage can vary from one user to the other, but for me, on my typical work days where I'm at the studio, glued to my computer, I managed to go nearly 2 days without needing to recharge. So if there's one good thing that came out of Tensor G3 chip, it's the positive impact on battery life, which is great news for anyone looking for a small phone. The charging speeds have also improved thanks to the increased power delivery. You also still get wireless charging, and if you know me, I've always appreciated MagSafe on iPhone, so I did miss that part on the Pixel 8 when I switched to this phone, but you can easily get a compatible case to address that. So I'm here at the Canadian International Auto Show. Super excited about this for February because, it's something exciting for the winter here in Canada. And what better way to actually test the cameras on the Pixel 8. So we're gonna go shoot some cars and test out these amazing cameras because they're actually pretty good. So the front-facing camera is a 10.2 megapixel sensor that can shoot 4K 30 frames per second. And it has really good stabilization. The quality is nice, dynamic range is really nice. And Google has also built in speech enhancement, which is their full processor that essentially eliminates all the background noise and focuses on your speech. So I think it's pretty awesome. I mean, it was great on the Pixel 7. It's pretty great on the Pixel 8. But what I'm really surprised, or what I was surprised, was with the rear-facing cameras, because the quality, as you guys are gonna see, is pretty incredible. So as you can see, the video quality from the rear-facing cameras is truly impressive. This phone supports 10-bit HDR recording and boasts excellent built-in stabilization. The active mode ensures a smooth shot, especially for action shots, albeit it is limited to 1080p. I shot most of these clips in standard mode, which takes care of light movements, and it works in 4K. I will say in low light you can expect some noise in the footage, but honestly, for stuff to share on social media, or even if you want to get into content creation, these cameras are pretty impressive. I really wished if Google included video boost for the Pixel 8 instead of just leaving that for the Pixel 8 Pro, since that would have cleaned up the footage so well. Also, if you're planning to shoot a ton of photos and videos on the Pixel, I did notice that it does tend to get warmer to the touch. Nothing to be worrying, but it's just something to be mindful of. Now, shifting gears to photos, if you're patient with the laggy camera app, you can actually end up with some pretty amazing results, but that shouldn't be surprising considering how good the Pixel 7 was already in the first place. Google has essentially replicated the same dual camera system with a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor and a 50 megapixel standard wide sensor. The only exception is that the main camera is now slightly faster, meaning it leads to more light, resulting in good low-light performance. The ultra-wide results are some of the best that I've encountered on a smartphone. It has a wider field of view to fit as many subjects in a tight space. The dynamic range is great, and when you pair that with OIS and Google's AI processing, images are well detailed. I will say that just like the Pixel 7, the white balance on the Pixel 8 tends to be a bit on the cooler side, but that can easily be addressed in post. The primary 50 megapixel sensor consistently delivers clean, well exposed, and detailed images. Now, by default, these photos are downsized to 12 megapixels for storage efficiency. If you're keen on RAW formats where you need those massive 50 megapixel photos, you'll need to upgrade to the 8 Pro, as Google for some reason decided to reserve Pro controls exclusively for that model, despite both the 8 and the 8 Pro sharing the same hardware. That being said, the 8 can still take RAW, it's just downsized to 12 megapixels, but regardless, the details coming out of this phone are truly incredible. Google has also introduced a feature called Super Res Zoom, which, while not entirely new, is actually noteworthy. So when you digitally zoom in by 8x, you may notice some degradation in the viewfinder's image quality, but after you capture the photo, Google's software and machine learning algorithms collaborate to reduce noise, enhance clarity, and present you with a surprisingly decent image. Now, while I may not use this feature all the time, I can see it coming handy for reading some signs or tackling anything that's difficult to decipher. Portrait mode is still available if you need that extra touch of artistic focus, but personally, I prefer the natural depth of field shooting in standard mode. The selfie camera is also fantastic. It has a wider field of view, which is great for group selfies, and it actually captures my skin tones accurately. Now, the software experience on Pixel devices have mostly remained consistent for the past few years. They're always known for amazing software capabilities than hardware, and this year they've added a few cool tricks up their sleeve, especially with the Pixel 8 and the 8 Pro. A few nuances that I noticed is a new repair mode with the latest version of Android. It's actually hidden underneath the system settings, but basically this protects your apps and personal data from being accessed when you give the phone for repair in the future. I just hope you don't drop it. Google has also recently added Circle to Search, which was debuted on the Galaxy S24, and Samsung was going to town with marketing that feature, though it was just a matter of time to get it rolled into the Pixel 8 and the 8 Pro. You basically long press on the home button, which highlights what's on your screen, and all you have to do is circle, highlight, or tap anything, which will then bring up search results instantly, and it's fast and stupid accurate. This is great for those who are glued to Pinterest for design inspirations. I tend to do that a lot, so I love this feature. There's also a clean feature that once again uses AI to remove any fingerprints, smudges, or creases when scanning documents or receipts. You can also use the cameras to double as a webcam. All you have to do is just plug in the phone to a computer, tap on USB options, and then webcam, and just like that, you can either use the rear cameras or the selfie camera over the potato ones built into your laptop. Magic Compose is also another feature that utilizes Google's latest LLM to generate and compose responses in different tones within the Messenger app. But as of now, it's only available in the States, so I wasn't able to test that out. Best Take is also a pretty sweet feature that combines multiple photos by swapping out faces of those who blinked so everyone looks their best. If you want to get creative with editing photos, Magic Editor lets you remove unnecessary objects in the photo to emphasize a subject by using generative fill, but I wouldn't rely on it 100% of the time. Plus, it also takes a while to process, especially when you're editing the background and just pushing the image to its limits. I appreciate the glanceable information on the lock screen that helps me keep track of my schedule. The new lock screen animations and customization layouts are pretty cool. In fact, you can also create your own wallpapers using AI with just a few words and prompts. Customizability is still the forefront of Android, and I love that. The file management system is far better than iOS. You still get features like Now Playing that identifies the music playing in the background, though keep in mind that you have to manually enable that after setting up the phone. And finally, Google has committed to providing Android OS updates for a whopping 7 years on the Pixel 8 and the Pixel 8 Pro. So that means these phones will stay current until 2030. However, I'm a bit skeptical about how the underwhelming Tensor chip will manage these advancements. But I guess only time will tell if it's going to make it or break it. Personally, I did wish if Google extended these updates to include the Pixel 7 series, but what can I say? It's a very Google thing to do. So to address my question at the beginning of this video, has Google succeeded or fallen short in the smartphone arena? You see, from a hardware standpoint, not really, since they've initially made the mistake of pricing this at $700, which is $100 more than the Pixel 7, and to me that price increase just doesn't justify the user experience. Google needs to address the performance inconsistencies with the Tensor chip. I applaud them for creating something different, but different doesn't necessarily mean better. The Pixel 8 just needs to step up in the game to compete effectively in the smartphone market. That being said, if you can snag this phone for as low as $550, it becomes an enticing proposition because you're getting access to one of the best smartphone cameras on the market, paired with impressive battery life and Google's AI stuff. It's undeniably a sweet deal. For those of us in Canada and worldwide, I would think twice before paying full price.